Hey folks, what's going on? This is my second podcast for the channel Gen Z Think, Gen Z Talk. So I just ended my second day of work. So I got in at about 8:30, and I left around 4:45. Pretty good day. Did my first synthesis reaction. Specifically, we're doing reactions with metal and acids. So what you get is an inorganic metal doing using those reagents. But yeah, so it went pretty well. We had a little bit of a mess up where we tried to test one of the samples, and it turned out that it didn't have enough metal content in it in order to get a good, accurate reading. So we just have to pop it back into the reaction mixture and cook it the next day. And the nice part is that we didn't have to scrap the entirety of the material. We can just resample after starting the reaction over again because it didn't tend to the point where it's an irreversible reaction. So that was good. I got a little flack from the president. So he gave me a warm welcome over email, but they had this thing, and they're all over it. It's called this communication standard, communication ethic, whatever your name is for it. But one of the things that I messed up on was sending my return email in the correct font and the correct size, and they have all these specifications for how they want emails to be communicated by. And I happened to slip up, of course, sending it to the president. I thought it only had to do with the signature in the email, so we're using Microsoft Outlook, and you can put together an email signature. And I thought that's what the communication standards were only referencing because they only really focused on the look of the signature. Because, if you were to send that to customers, that's what the customer would see. They would see your email, whatever you had to say, and then they would see your signature, which is like your business card information, then a nice company logo. So I only really focused on the signature. I didn't think that anything else in my email was wrong, but of course, the entirety of it was typed out in the wrong font and font size. So he, instead of the president talking to me, he went to my boss and kind of chewed him out, I guess. But my boss didn't really mind. He's in his late 60s. If you're gonna fire him, then he's not really gonna care because he can retire. But also, it wouldn't be a really good idea for the company to fire him because he holds most of the knowledge, and they're in a process where they need to transfer all of that knowledge that he has, namely to somebody like me who's fresh out of school and can, stick around in the workforce for a while. So, kind of, funny and kind of sets the tone that, I guess it is a real chemical job that I've been after all of these years. So I got to double check, cross cross your T's and dot your I's, that sort of deal with when I'm communicating via email to other workers in the company. So on the girlfriend front, we had an argument yesterday. So we sort of came forward with like some of the stuff that we were hiding from each other, sort of holding each other accountable in our Christian walk with God mainly, but we're still close as former lovers, so it's kind of hard to hear some of the things that she said. One of them was she took a cigarette from a coworker. So in her mind, she's telling me that she's telling this guy, her coworker, about God, and she's saying that God can do a lot of things for him in his life if he, came forward and wanted to have a relationship. And it's like, that's fine and good. It's like, I had no problem with that. Hey, you want to bring people to the kingdom of God, then great. I'm all for it. I don't care who you talk to. But one of the things that she told me is that she ended up smoking 2 cigarettes with this guy. And I was just like, that's interesting. And the more I thought about it, the more I felt like she wasn't only trying to connect with him on, a point of religion, but if the way you think about that event, it's just like, okay, they're connecting in sort of a different way. And she was telling me that she used to Jewel um, a couple or a year ago, and she never really told me about it. So I don't know if she's addicted to smoking or, if that was just a one and done deal. But what concerns me more is that, if you're taking cigarettes from a guy, it's like you're sort of emotionally involved with that guy at that point. So that really ticked me off, and I let her know about it. And then she hit me with a reply where she was like, "Oh, well, when you tell me not to do something, it just makes me want to do it more." And I told her, I was just like, that how am I supposed to trust you then? Like, you're off talking to this guy supposedly about God, and then the next thing I know, you're sharing cigarettes with this guy. It's like, okay, you're really painting me a terrible picture here, and then you're not giving me any confidence that you want to put effort into our relationship by saying, oh, well, when you tell me not to do something, or you tell me something that bothers you, it just makes me want to do it more. And it's like, for me, it's like it's really making me put up my emotional blinders. And I told her, like, straight at that point, I'm like, well, what's the point of even talking to each other? If you can't respect what I want out of our relationship, and I don't ask for much. I'm not asking for sex. I'm not asking for money. I'm not asking for praise. It's like I'm just looking to connect with somebody and have a relationship with them and have a relationship with God. So it's like I don't really care, how smart or how pretty or how none of that matters to me, because at the end of the day, those type of wants are kind of superficial, and willing to work towards the relationship, then what's the point of having one? So it's like that's the impression that I'm starting to get from her, and it's really demotivating me. We're supposed to go to Dollar Burger night at a restaurant, and it's like, she told me later today, like, oh, I think you. So originally, this text exchange was taking place earlier this morning. About like, well, what's the point of having a relationship with you if you feel the need to poke at it in a negative way. So I told her, I was just like, well, if that's your line of thinking, then I'm ready to move on to somebody else. I know you had a rough family life or whatever, but it's like you can't attribute that to everything that's going on in your life. Because when is that going to change? When does the switch flip for that type of thinking? Is it when you're out of your parents' house? Is it when you have a satisfying job? Is it when you start getting friends? And it's like, to me, it's like, what? Maybe I'm just not the guy that, sparks her passion for a relationship. Maybe I'm just seen as more of a guy that, can fulfill a need at the moment. And then, once that need is met, you go off and do whatever you want without really worrying about what the guy wants. So it's like, that's the relationship that I feel like this might be turning into. Initially it started out great. It's like she was so adorable. She's not, like I said, she has a learning disability. So it's like, she would say some stuff or like spell words wrong or something over text. And it's like, it was adorable. She had a bad family life growing up, so there were some anger issues. I'm just like, oh, well, maybe if I show her a different way of living, she'll come to understand. But, one of the challenges, like I said, was that learning disability. So yeah, it's really been tough working through that. It's a lot of miscommunication. Things that I say that I think are intuitive just aren't to her. And so it causes confusion, and then she gets pissed off because she doesn't understand what I'm saying half the time, and I have to reiterate it, and I sort of get frustrated having to, repackage things that I'm saying a different way because they were misunderstood, and then we have a whole argument blowing up over who said what, and it's very counterproductive at the end of the day. And it's just something where, how much is enough? But ultimately, it's like one thing compounding after the other. And then you throw in that guy that she's smoking cigarettes with. So it really makes me think that she might not be taking our relationship as serious as I am. And she doesn't understand that, getting emotionally involved with another guy, leads to cheating. And it's like I see it a mile away. And, so we're about to go to Dollar Burger Night and talk things over. But I mean, my emotional blinders are up. Um, and we'll see, because it's like the ball's in her court. I told her what I want. I'm not asking for much. Just it's like I have needs too. It's like I've helped her out financially. I've helped her out psychologically. I've shown her that she's worth more than what her parents tell her she is. So I don't know if I'm seen more as like a father figure or something more than like a romantic partner. So it's kind of frustrating because you put so much time and effort into trying to change somebody's life, and then you realize at some point it's like only God can help that person change. So it's like maybe I should have done more praying than uh, putting her up in a motel to give her some distance from her abusive parents. So I don't know. We'll see how tonight goes. But other than that, just living life. I've started taking my eating more seriously. Since I got this job, I think I'll get a nice routine going with my eating. Um, I'm a very routine person. If I don't having a routine is for me is very therapeutic. I know what I'm going to be doing or have a rough idea of what I'm going to be doing during each hour of the day. To me, it's like, that's some sort of way that I take control of my life. Whereas, my close friend that is a girl, thinks that life should be spontaneous. You shouldn't have, the only thing that should guide your life is your heart. And it's like I just could never get on that page. And maybe that's where we clash a lot, is because I'm a pretty fixed person when it comes to goals. And my idea of a fun time on the weekend is watching a movie, or going out for a couple drinks, stuff that's low key. Whereas she wants to go out and take a whole bunch of pictures and be the center of attention in a VIP section. And it's like, to me, it's like it's not really fun. It just I just don't like being in the spotlight, where she loves being in the spotlight. And we clash a lot over the types of things that we should be doing. So it is what it is. I mean, she's sweet, very upfront and honest, which I appreciate. It's like, I'm glad that she told me that she was, happened to be smoking cigarettes with this guy. And it's like, all right, well, at least you told me, so, I can sort of put my emotional blinders on, and it's not a blind side to me if we do end up not working out. So I'm thankful for that. It's kind of sad, and it's like, it's a little stressful, because I'd rather it be a Band-Aid being ripped off, I guess, in a relationship, rather than, the relationship breaking down month by month, day after day. And it's like I sort of have this deadline by the end of the year. She graduates school in September, and, I understand where, she feels like I shouldn't just move on yet. But we'll see. It's like when she graduates, she'll have a much better idea of what her standard of living will look like, who she wants in her life, where she wants to spend her time, stuff like that. So it's like a lot of those big picture ideas she just hasn't figured out, and I've figured them out. And then I'm trying to tell her, like, hey, um, whatever. Say you have all this fun, you do all the traveling. It's like, where does that leave you 10 years from now? So it's sort of that long-term thinking that we always clash on. Two different viewpoints, but the biggest thing that we have in common is that we both love God. We know that having a relationship with God should come first, so it's like that's sort of our bonding point. But a lot of the other stuff, it's like it just isn't there at the moment. You know, she doesn't really I'm sure she appreciates what I've done for her financially, emotionally, spending lots of time building her up, you know, building her confidence up. But I feel like because I did all of that, I'm seen as sort of like a mentor figure rather than, you know, somebody who is on an equal playing equal playing field, I guess, in terms of you know, spending your life with. Maybe she just sees me as too far ahead in life for her to be interested in romantically, and I think that's where it's heading. And you know, it's fine because you know, there's a lot of people out there that I think, or women out there that I think would love to have what I offer to them. You know, so I'm not too worried about this relationship ending because there's always other women, there's other fish in the pond. You know, um, so I'm not too worried about it. Uh, and it is what it is. You know, that's why putting God first for me. It's like, you know, when other things are going on in the background, you know, relationships fall apart, or you know, the job just isn't there. One of my ways of staying sane is, you know, knowing that God has a plan for me. Um, you know, his point A to point B plan might not be a straight line. Might be a bunch of might be a bunch of scribbles to paint a beautiful picture in the process. But yeah, it's like I just have to trust and have faith. You know, lean on the people that I know I can lean on, which is my family, people that I go to Bible study with, and you know, just go for there, and you know, take life one day at a time. You know, so anyways, you know, kind of a shorter podcast this time. Wasn't really too much going on today. I wasn't in a YMCA league over the past couple of weeks. We just had our first playoff game yesterday, and I guess you get to play two playoff games minimum. I'm not sure what's going on there, but we lost our first playoff game, so I don't know if we go to losers bracket or something. But I had a lot of fun with that. Basketball is one of my outlets, so you know, yeah. So I think that's gonna be a wrap for today. If I think of anything else, I'll talk about it on tomorrow's episode. And that's it. Have a good day.